Hey everyone, welcome. It's time for Sunday chats with Nim, and just waiting for everyone to start logging in before we dive into today's session. So you all know the drill. When you start logging in, please say hi in the comments so I can say hi or hello back to you. And let's try and make this as interactive as possible. For those of you who've been on this journey with me with Sunday Chats with Nim, you know that I like my sessions to be interactive, where it's just not me speaking for 10 or 15 minutes. So it's always nice when you ask questions or you share insights. And I might ask a few questions every now and then. So don't worry about whether the answers are right or wrong. Just go ahead and type those in the comment section because I love hearing from you all. And I love reading about what you have to say. So welcome to Sunday Chats with Nim. My name is Nim Golkar, and we're going to be discussing yet another interesting topic today. Now, for those of you who don't know what Sunday Chats with Nim is all about, it's my weekly Facebook Live show, which I've been hosting since mid-2018, and we are currently into season 4 of this show, which makes it very, very exciting for me. Now, I have covered a wide range of topics which are designed to help you get ahead both personally and professionally. And in the last couple of years, there's been a whole heap of topics we've explored, ranging from how to become an effective communicator through to how to stop being invisible in the workplace, right from how to recognize fake friends, right down to how to deal with toxic people when they are in your inner circle. So a lot of interesting topics explored. If you've missed watching any of those episodes, or if you'd like to rewatch some of them, all the past episodes are available on my YouTube channel, which is known as No Prizes for Guessing, Nim Golkar. So do go there, and there are, I think, more than 100 videos available for you on all kinds of topics related to personal and professional development. So I'm sure you'll enjoy watching those. Before we dive into today's topic, I just want to say a very quick thank you to all the wonderful participants who joined me in the masterclass last Sunday. It was titled How to Be an Effective Communicator. And I thoroughly enjoyed interacting with you all. I loved the questions you posed, and I hope you found value in that masterclass. Now, for those who don't know, that was a masterclass that was priced at just $25. And I'm going to be having similar masterclasses once a month on different topics. So the next masterclass will be on the 19th of July, which is a Sunday. And the topic this time is how to banish negative thoughts and the habit of overthinking. Because I find that a lot of people have amazing talent, amazing skills, and yet they're not able to get ahead in the workplace, yet they're not able to pursue their dreams, yet they're not able to fulfill their long-term goals because of this roadblock of overthinking, overanalyzing, thinking too much. So I've got some amazing tips and techniques lined up for you in that masterclass on the 19th of July. And I'll be sharing with you strategies that I myself have used over the years because I used to be an overthinker. I still continue to be occasionally, and what I do to overcome those and try and fulfill my goals. So that's on the 19th of July. So watch this space. I'll be sharing more details with you over the next few days and weeks. Let me quickly say my highs. Hi Shivani, how are you? Hi Madhura. Madhura says your information is really interesting and useful. Thank you so much, Madhura. That makes me happy. I'm glad you enjoy the topics that I share. For those of you who are just logging in, my request stays the same as always. Don't forget to say hi to me because I love interacting with you all. Alrighty, so today we're going to be talking about 3 reasons why you may not be taken seriously in the workplace. Now, I know that there are many people who are super talented, super skilled, and yet they find that their ideas and opinions are dismissed in the workplace, dismissed without discussion. I find there are many people who, no matter how much they try to put their ideas across to their colleagues, peers, or senior management, somehow find that they're not able to get through. Their voices are not heard. And I even know some people who've told me that, Nim, whenever I put an idea across, somehow no one pays any attention. And in the next 5 minutes, someone else might put forward the same idea, identical, and it will get appreciated and applauded, right? So there are many, many different reasons why you may not be currently taken seriously in your workplace by your peers or your bosses, or even your subordinates. And I'm going to share with you the top 3 reasons that I personally find might be a roadblock in your corporate success. Okay, so Shweta says, hi. Hi, Shweta. Welcome to Sunday Chats. Nirakar, I'm well, thank you. How are you? Alrighty, so let's dive in. Top 3 reasons why you may not be taken seriously in the workplace. I'm also going to share with you some interesting anecdotes from the second book that I had written, and excuse the mirror image, Unlock the Real You. Now, Unlock the Real You actually has many chapters which explore every single mistake I personally have made, either in my personal or professional life. So today I'm going to read to you some quick excerpts from a couple of chapters relating to the topics we will be talking about in this session, right? So I'm going to share with you some of an insight into my own personal and professional life through the medium of that book. The first reason that you may not be taken seriously in the workplace is because you overpromise and under-deliver. Let me repeat that. One of the biggest reasons people don't take you seriously is because you overpromise and under-deliver. So basically, in simple terms, what that means is you promise a whole lot more than you know deep down you are capable of delivering. Now, one of the foundational steps of corporate success is the trust factor. People need to trust you before they can take you seriously. I'm sure you've all heard of the phrase that people like to do business with people whom they know, like, and trust, which is why the trust factor becomes super important when it comes to your corporate journey, right? Now, there are many people I know who are in the habit of promising way more than they can deliver. And when I ask them, did you know always that you would not be able to deliver what you're saying? And they say, yes, but I still couldn't stop myself from at least saying that I'm going to try and do it. And yet they don't deliver. Now, one of the biggest reasons people overpromise and underdeliver is because they are afraid to say no. They are afraid to give a realistic picture about what is possible and what is not. And hence, when someone makes a request that they know is impossible for them to fulfill, they are terrified. They are terrified to say no. And hence, they promise something that they know deep down they can never deliver. Now, I'm going to pose you a question, my friends, and quickly type it out in the comments, whatever you think is the right answer. Why do you think so many people are afraid to say no, particularly in the workplace? What do you think will happen if you say no to a request that may be unrealistic or that might overwhelm you with work that you are not currently capable of taking on? So my question to you is, why are people scared to say no and put up boundaries, healthy boundaries, politely in the workplace? Let me just sip my hot water while you think of an answer and type it in the comments. Now, please don't be shy because this is not a one-way street. I'd like it to be interactive. What are some reasons people are scared to say no? Anyone? So while you're thinking and while you're typing, there is an answer. Okay, there's a few people answering. Nirakar says, avoid any miscommunication, keeping our no in their minds. That's right, Nirakar, absolutely. We feel that if we say no, there might be some miscommunication, or people might misunderstand our intentions, and we may get into people's bad books. And Shivani says people may feel bad. Absolutely. So the most common reasons why we're afraid to say no is exactly what you've said so far, all of you. Firstly, we want to be liked. Have you heard of that phrase, the disease to please? We want to be liked by everyone, and hence we're afraid to say no. Because the minute you say no and the minute you put up boundaries, you fear people will not like you anymore. Another reason we don't say no is because we don't want to come across as incompetent or incapable of fulfilling our tasks, right? That is another reason why we are hesitant to say no. And in very extreme conditions, some of us are afraid to say no because we feel we'll offend the boss and be given the sack and we won't have a job anymore. So there are many, many, many different reasons why we say no. And we have another answer from Shweta, because people may think you are not capable of doing the job. Exactly right, Shweta. Because people might see you as incompetent and incapable of doing your job, and hence we say no. But you know what I found in my 25-year career here in Australia is that we need to start making realistic promises, promises that we can keep. Now, the opposite, so basically under promise and over deliver, that's not a good tactic either. What I suggest is think about what are some time frames that you can deliver on. Think about what outcomes and results you can deliver in a realistic time frame, and then promise exactly that. Not anything less, not anything more. When you start keeping the promises you make, when you make realistic promises, that's when people will start trusting you. And when people start trusting you, they will start taking your opinions seriously. You will find that your opinions are no longer dismissed without discussion when people actually trust you. Okay, so here are some ways you can actually learn to say no in a polite manner without burning bridges. So for example, if it is one of your peers or co-workers who comes and hands you tasks or projects that you are too busy to take on at the moment, what you can do is offer them an alternative when you are saying no. For example, you can say, I can't help you at this given moment, but perhaps Tuesday next week, I'll have half an hour free in the first half of the day to sit with you and help you with this project. So you're not just saying an outright blanket no, you are giving them an alternative which gives them hope, and it doesn't offend them. Now, if it is your boss, your manager, who is giving you work and you're already overwhelmed with so many different things that you're doing for that boss, and if you continue to take on more work, what you're going to do is you're not going to be able to submit any of those tasks or projects with 100% value. You will always fall short, and you will end up annoying a lot of people, annoying and frustrating a lot of people. So if it is your boss and you want to find out a healthy, polite way to say no, what you can do is you can let your boss know about your current workload. Remind him or her about what you're currently working on, because chances are he or she may have forgotten that they've already handed you half a dozen tasks to work on. So remind them of your current workload and then ask them politely if they would rather that you put whatever it is that you've been working on aside and instead start focusing on this new request that they have just come and given to you. So once you are clear and transparent about what you're working on, that's a polite way to let them know that you're currently swamped with work and you can't take on anything new. Okay, so the importance of saying no. I'm going to read out to you a quick excerpt, like I said at the start, from one of my books, Unlock the Real You. And this is chapter 17, and the title of the chapter is Don't Say Yes When You Want to Say No. And I've got a quote by Paulo Coelho under it, which says, when you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. So this chapter actually talks about one of my own experiences a few years ago. So let me just read that for you. For a very long time, I was one of those people who always said yes when I really wanted to say no. I was Miss Nice to the core, the one everyone liked. So if a friend asked for a favor or a colleague asked for any help, I would drop everything else, my own projects included, and go out of my way to be accommodating. Over time, the quality of my own work began to suffer, and I felt my life spiraling out of control. I was busy all the time, and yet nothing got accomplished. And then one morning in 2012, in a little fishing village of Maharashtra, a group of fisher women changed my entire perspective. Dressed in colorful cotton saris tucked at their waists, a bunch of diligent women sat on their haunches, surrounded by freshly caught fish. And then I talk about how I approached them and asked them if they'd like to pose for a photo with me. I called out a few times, but none of them looked up. Finally, one young woman raised her head slightly, and without meeting my eyes, she said in a soft but firm voice, "We don't have any time for a photo. The men will be back shortly with more fish, and we're racing against time." And that was that. Now, this is a little story that has been entrenched in my memory ever since it happened in 2012. And it was a great crash course in the ability to say no and to remain focused on the task at hand. Okay, so before I go on, let me just see if I've missed any comments. Madhura says we don't say no because we want to try at least once. That's right. And secondly, we don't want to stand out of the competition. True. But if you really can't take that task, you have to accept the fact. And don't make false promises is always better. Yes, so the key learning from this point is please don't make false promises. Do not overpromise and underdeliver. Do not underpromise and overdeliver. Just reflect on what outcomes and deliverables you can provide in a timely manner, and then promise exactly that. So that was the first reason you may not be taken seriously in the workplace. The second reason is that you don't speak up in meetings, right? Many of us, we are hesitant and reluctant to speak up in meetings because of many different reasons. Let me again throw out the question to all of you. Why are so many of us reluctant to speak up in meetings? Why are we so scared to put our opinion forward? What do you think? What's the worst that can happen if we speak up? What are we scared of? Does anyone want to have a go and write it in the comments? Why are we afraid to express our opinions, put forward our ideas and thoughts in meetings? Anyone? I know lots and lots of people who come to me and say that they have brilliant ideas, but they are terrified of putting those forward, particularly when they are sitting with a large group of co-workers. And they're awkward and sometimes even terrified of giving an opinion. So while you think, let me share my own perspectives. Some of the reasons we don't express our opinions in meetings is because of the fear of judgment and the fear of ridicule. We don't want to be laughed at. We don't want others to think that our ideas are silly. We don't want to come across as less competent than we are. We often keep second guessing ourselves, and we keep wondering whether it's the right time to say it, whether it's the right thing to say. And because we're constantly second guessing ourselves, we work ourselves into this panic, and then nothing comes out. And then guess what? 2 minutes later, some other smarty pants in the meeting will say exactly what you wanted to say, and he or she will walk away with all the credit for the brilliant ideas that they have expressed, right? Okay, let's see what everyone is saying. Nirakar says, assume that our ideas might not be accepted. Absolutely right, Nirakar. Shivani says that my boss may think I'm naive or silly. Absolutely right, Shivani. And Nidhi says, apart from hesitation, sometimes you're genuinely short of ideas, kind of afraid whether it would be valued. Absolutely true. Sometimes our mind just goes blank, Nidhi, and even with the greatest of intentions, we might have stepped out of the house saying, today's meeting, I'm definitely going to speak up. And when the time arrives, our mind goes blank and we have nothing of value to offer. Absolutely right. And Shivani adds another point, or that we may be laughed at. Absolutely true, which aligns with what I said a little earlier. There's a fear of judgment or ridicule. So what I'd like you all to remember is that if you want to be taken seriously in the workplace, you've got to start somewhere. And trust me, in the early years when I first started practicing expressing my opinions, I made many faux pas, I made many mistakes. I made many things that were worth laughing at, right? Some of my opinions were good, some not so good. Some were expressed well, some not so well. So I made loads of mistakes. But what I've promised myself for a long, long time is no matter what mistake I make or how many times I make mistakes, I'm always going to walk away from that mistake with some kind of learning or some kind of wisdom that I can rinse and repeat in future, so that no mistake should ever go waste. Whenever I make mistakes, I look at them like my teachers. I look at them, I reflect on them, and I try to find out what I can learn to become a better person or to become a better communicator. So I suggest, no matter how terrified you are, get into the habit of expressing your opinions. Now, it might be a shaky start, particularly if you're not used to it. Your voice might tremble, you might get a bit teary. So be it. You must soldier on. Now, I know someone, I think it was Nidhi, who said that sometimes we don't have ideas and therefore we have nothing to say, and so we don't open our mouth. One trick that I have always used when I can't think of an original idea to put forward is I validate someone else's idea. For example, if I have a colleague called Jane, and let's say Jane has put forward this brilliant idea. She's put forward a really interesting suggestion. What I do is I would lean forward on the desk just to show that I'm an active participant in the meeting. I would lean forward, I would make eye contact with all the people in the meeting room, and I would actually speak up in favor of Jane's idea. I would say something along the lines of, I really agree with Jane, and I think that's a brilliant idea, and I believe that is something that will be very beneficial for our company's bottom line. So have you noticed? I've actually not come up with any fabulous, life-changing, original idea of my own. I have simply validated a co-worker's idea. But in the initial days and months when you're practicing speaking up, this is a perfectly fine and acceptable tactic. At least your voice is being heard. You are supporting a fellow worker, and you are showing that you're paying attention and participating in the meeting. You're putting forward the perception that you have something to contribute to the meeting. And when you do that, you will start being taken more seriously. Another thing to remember is try and be amongst the first 3 people to speak up in a meeting. You can do that by putting forward your own original idea, by validating a co-worker's idea like I just mentioned, or doing yet another simple thing, which is asking a question. So let's say, for example, someone in the meeting has put forward an idea. What you can say is, can you tell me a little bit more about that so I understand it better? Or can you expand on that a little so I get a better perspective? Even by asking a question or two, a thoughtful question or two, by the way, not just asking for the sake of asking, just by asking relevant questions, you will be perceived as an effective communicator. So that was my second reason why people don't get taken seriously, and that is they don't speak up in meetings. Let me just read what everyone's saying. Madhura says, putting points in meeting is not a fear, but sometimes we get scared if some people don't like or if they don't agree with our ideas. So Madhura, that's a fabulous point. We often, like I said at the start, we worry about judgment, we worry about being accepted. So what I'd like to say on that point is that in life, we're never going to please every single person. And like I love saying, life is not a popularity contest. What is important to keep in mind is that you are practicing the art of speaking up in meetings. So it is okay if some people in the room don't necessarily like your ideas. Just look at it as practice where you're learning new skills. And if people don't like what you say, you can always ask them later in person for feedback. You can always ask them what they thought about how you spoke up in meetings. And sometimes you can even be transparent and say, look, I'm trying to practice the art of speaking up. It's not something that I've mastered yet, and I would really appreciate your feedback. So don't let other people's opinions stop you in your track, because trust me, whether you do option A or you do option B, whether you do option 1 or you do option 2, you will always end up offending 1 or 2 people, and that is okay. As long as you're open to feedback, as long as you're open to constructive criticism, you'll always be the winner. All right. And Nidhi says, thanks, Nim. I also feel listening is a good skill too. Don't just speak just because you should. Giving value to a colleague's ideas will build a teamwork and rapport. Absolutely, Nidhi. Absolutely right. Listening is a very, very important part of communication skills, and it's not something that many of us practice on a day-to-day basis. So I would highly encourage you all to become what is known as active listeners. That is, when you're listening to other people, don't start formulating your own response in your mind. I know many people who are just waiting for the opposite person to stop speaking and come up for air so that they can barge right in and talk about their own opinions. So active listening is when you're truly tuned in and you're listening to what the other person is saying. And don't worry, when it's your time to speak, you will know what to say if you've been paying attention. And Dipali says, hi Nim, I just arrived. Welcome, Dipali. You've probably missed out on a sizable chunk of this video, but no fear, you can always go back and re-listen to it. It will be posted on my page as well as on my YouTube channel. So today we're talking about the top 3 reasons why you may not be taken seriously in the workplace. Quick wrap up of the first 2. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. The second is speak up in meetings, because when you don't speak up, you're not taken seriously. And the third and the last reason why you may not be taken seriously in the workplace is without realizing you come across as a negative person. Now, I know some people who, no matter what kind of meeting it is, they are always focused on pointing out why a certain project or why a certain idea will not work. They are always the ones who have many different reasons why a certain idea will not be successful or why a certain idea is not a good idea. Now, when you only pipe up in meetings to play the devil's advocate, when you only speak up to point out why something is a bad idea, when you only express an opinion to say that something others have suggested is not going to work, then without realizing it, you develop a reputation as a negative Nancy. Basically, that is a person who is completely pessimistic. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't point out legitimate loopholes or potential dangers. Of course you should. But if you are constantly in the habit of only pointing out why something won't work or why an idea is not good, then people are not going to appreciate you and they're not going to take you seriously and they're going to dismiss your ideas. So keep a balance, right? Ask yourself in every meeting, am I the person who always says, no, this will not work? Am I the person who always points out why something will fail? If you're always playing devil's advocate just because you want a grand discussion on a certain topic, people are going to get annoyed. You're going to rub people the wrong way. So yes, whenever it really is required, of course, point out the loopholes. discuss with your team why something won't work. But for the large part, wherever possible, ask yourself if you can offer encouraging feedback, if you can be positive, if you can be proactive in the opinions that you put forward. Okay? So that was it for today. My top 3 reasons why you may not be taken seriously. With the working week beginning tomorrow being Monday, ask yourself if you've been guilty in however small a way of any of these 3 things. Do you overpromise and underdeliver because you're afraid to say no? If that is the case, learn the art of actually saying no or putting up healthy boundaries in a polite manner. And I have given a couple of suggestions in the early part of today's show. The second thing is, ask yourself if you're always staying quiet in meetings because you're afraid of judgment. If that's the case, I've offered a couple of techniques as well. And the last thing, ask yourself is, are you, without realizing it, being a negative Nancy? Are you being too negative in your meetings? So I am hoping you've enjoyed this video. I certainly have enjoyed interacting with you all. I'll see you again next week on Sunday for the next episode of Sunday Chats with Nim. If you have any questions about any of my coaching programs related to communication skills or self-confidence, please drop me a line at info@nimgolkar.com. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.